Welcome back to the Choten Podcast, where we sit down with founders, creators, and leaders really shaping the future of business, culture, and performance. Today, I'm joined by CEO of Collins Ave Champagne, Curtis Collins. Curtis Collins has been a serial entrepreneur, former athlete, and has lived a solid life so far. Curtis, thank you for joining the show.
Yeah, 1000%, man. Thank you for having me.
Of course, man. So, Curtis, let's just jump right into it. Tell us how you got started with Collins Avenue Champagne.
So I jumped into the champagne space about 3 years ago, roughly, maybe a little less, a little more. But I did some creative work with other brands and stuff like that, and just help them curate events and ideas to help them expand their brand across multiple different platforms, cities, countries, etc. But I also just came into the space where I had the network to expand and do my own brand. Knew enough people, I had enough resources that I thought it would be just make sense for me to have my own brand and stop pushing someone else's narrative that doesn't ultimately fit the way I see my narrative going. And then, I just came with a couple ideas back in 2023. All that stemmed from a couple no's and people kept turning me away, to kind of push agendas for them, but they didn't see a fit for their brand. So I kind of took the initiative on my own hand and started my own champagne company.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
You mentioned something really important about initiative. And as founders, I think that's one of the most important parts of being a successful founder is being able to
Yeah.
take that initiative and know when to start and keep
Yeah.
going. So talk about that. Talk about how important it is to have that initiative.
I think being an entrepreneur, you have to be mentally sound a lot more than the average person. The average person is used to getting a consistent paycheck or knowing they're going to get paid or knowing, when this is going to happen or a deposit hits or anything like that. Um, and it's almost like it's certainty in that with being an entrepreneur, it's uncertain. With going into businesses and rooms and meetings, not knowing whether they're going to say yes or no. And this is your livelihood. This is how you pay your bills. I don't have another job. I don't make money off any other thing. I have other investments that are, further down the line, but this is something that's the now, and this is how, I ultimately, feed myself.
Yeah. So, you know, one thing that I've noticed, and I speak to founders every single day on this podcast, and one thing I notice time and time again is they bring up mindset and something you brought up as well. It's mindset
Hmm.
and having that strong mindset to really, start things, keep it going, and then keep going when things get tough,
Yeah.
you know? So I want to kind of hear your opinions on that. And how does that sort of mindset come from your past as an athlete as well?
I think that's a really good question. I think where a lot of this stems from for me, just always being a problem solver. I think football, you get in a lot of situations that are unprecedented for you, whether that's a turnover on downs or interception, fumble, a block kick, a muff punt. There's so many variables that come into things not going in your way or not going in your favor. And you're back against the wall. You may have been up, two touchdowns and two bad plays. You guys can be a tie game or down touchdown. And so that instinctively kind of shaped and molded the way I look at life. Nothing as bad as it seemed. In football, the saying was not as bad as it looked and it's not as good as it looked. And so that is reverting back to film. You go on film, all right, it didn't look that bad. Yeah, okay. And then you have plays and you thought you did really, really well, and you go back, but I wasn't really that good. And that's kind of how I interpret life and interpret business. And I think that's the way you kind of have to, um, you know, have the vision that, things are as bad as or as good as you think they are, but they're always doable and everything, nothing's impossible. You just have to find a solution.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
What was the transition like from being an athlete to a founder?
I think it's very seamless for me. Being a founder was one of those things that I understood um, that coming into the role of leadership was a very easy transition for me because I was a captain on the football team and up into college as well and pros. And so I understood very, very early on that I had to lead by example. And I think that's what, being an entrepreneur or CEO or founder kind of is an example of, like, people are going to follow what you do, and how the company's ran, and how you think things should get done, or in a timely manner or efficiency, and ultimately they're going to follow your lead. So it kind of goes in.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's very important to sort of think of, your team
Yeah,
in your business as the same way as you would, you know, a football team.
yeah,
I grew up playing sports as well. You always have to be your brother's keeper
yeah,
on any team.
one thousand
And
percent.
as a founder, I think it's really incredibly important to be your brother's keeper or be your employee's keeper in the sense,
Yeah,
your partners, co-founders, whatever the case may be. It's really important to maintain those relationships with the people
yeah,
because otherwise your business isn't going to go anywhere.
yeah, 1000%. I agree.
Yeah. So with your current business, Champagne Ave, what does your team look like? Do you have any co-founders? What does that look like?
Yeah, so I have another co-owner with me. His name is Craig James. He's a 7-year NFL vet. So he has a sports background as well. And then I have 6 women that work for my company. And they're all, all women. It's all women ran company, besides me and the other co-owner of Collins Ave. So I did that strategically. I've always noticed that women are very detail oriented people. They're always very they pay attention to details, and they very understand that impact emphatic part of being a business person or the consumer base. And when you have women and people that can empathize with your company, I think you can always be successful.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And that's really important. I like that topic. I actually spoke with a founder named Rachel Bello
Mhm.
yesterday. And Rachel Bello, she founded a company called Bonfire Women, which was
Yeah.
a leadership company that essentially trained women on how to get into leadership positions and what to do once they get there.
Yeah.
And she talked about this as well, about how having these diverse perspectives on your team
Yeah.
holds a lot of weight
Yep.
because there's so many lived experiences that you and I might have as men, but a woman might have differently,
Yeah.
or even
Absolutely.
lived experiences between a South Asian man like myself and a black man like yourself, right?
Yeah.
So many different lived experiences that having these different perspectives is incredibly important to have on your
Understood.
team.
Yeah.
You
I
know,
agree. I agree 1000%.
absolutely.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, and I think having that perspective that you have it's a really positive thing. And I think because of that, the business will go very far. Now, I want to ask you about sort of the differences in the types of businesses you've ran before.
Yeah.
Obviously, you ran a different agency model before, and now you're running an e-commerce style business. So, what is the differences like in that?
Well, I will say with the management side of things, you're a lot more hands on, and you're in the need to know more than I do with the champagne. The champagne, it sells itself to a degree. Once it gets in certain establishments, or it's in certain, like, credible venues and things like that, it kind of sells itself, because let's give Ruth Chris for example. If Collins Ave happens to sit in Ruth Chris, and someone goes on the bottom menu and sees that it's on there, they feel like, okay, this has to be a reputable brand, or has to be somewhat of a good brand to be in Ruth Chris, just automatically based off the the stereotype that, hey, anything in this restaurant is good. And that's kind of how that kind of, like, delegates itself without me having to be as hands on. Versus the management, I'm very, like, having to follow up on calls and send double texts and make sure this gets done and make sure that's done and make sure it's very people led, and emotionally driven from us as people. So it can cause, like, a sort of like a mischief, or riffraff a little bit, you would say, just trying to run the business thoroughly. So I think that will be the two difference.
Right.
Yeah.
So, what is the client acquisition side of things? How is that different?
It's very different. Like I said, champagne sells itself. Once you try it, either you like it or you don't. With athletes and artists and things of those nature, it's more of a personal feel. It's more of like a relationship, or it's more of like a comfortability thing. And you have to kind of persuade and kind of like chip away at getting to know them, or working with them, or doing things, improving yourself, versus, you know, if it's a nice pair of shoes, it's a nice pair of shoes. Or if it's a good steak, it's a good steak. You can't argue that. Now your taste buds may like more or less of something, but a good steak is a good steak all around the board for the most part. And so that's what I think the difference is.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. One thing about e-commerce is that if you don't have that brand recognition, it's really hard in the beginning to start getting sales and start building that brand name for
I
yourselves.
don't, not to control. I don't look at it as e-commerce. I look at it as you're selling a lifestyle. You're selling more than just a product. With e-commerce, it's kind of like you're kind of building something. You're not building something. You're kind of grabbing something to put in someone's hand just for a transactional dollar amount or a monetary dollar amount. Versus me, my brand goes beyond just champagne into lifestyle, goes into everyday habits, it goes into needs or visibility. It goes into so many different rooms. Like if you see that a person is enjoying life drinking my champagne and they're on a yacht in the middle of south of France, that's something you kind of want to emulate to some degree. Now, it may not be south of France, it could be Miami, it could be California, it could be, Mexico, it can be any different place, but you see that brand and ultimately it kind of resonates with you. So I think
Right.
I'm more selling like a lifestyle brand more than just e-commerce for me.
I mean, that's a really good point. That's a really good perspective. And it brings up a solid point about how you want to sell an emotion, you want to sell a feeling. So with your champagne, you're
Uh-huh.
selling luxury. You're not just selling champagne.
Yeah,
You're not just another champagne dealer.
agreed.
You are selling luxury. You're selling Collins
Yeah,
Ave Champagne.
yeah,
So I
exactly.
want to talk about how important that is, the branding of your brand.
It's super important for me because ultimately that's how people depict my brand and that's how they gauge where it sits at the teeter level of luxury, non-luxury, high end, low end. That's how they justify by my brand and the things and the type of events and people we attach ourselves to. I think a lot of people don't realize that like all good money isn't, all money isn't good money. I'm sorry.
Mm,
And I think some people have a hard time because it's like, man, the money's right there. I can take it. But it's like, okay, is that good for your brand? Because now your brand is associated with that caliber of people or that crowd type or that demographic. That may not be something you want on your plate as a champagne owner or a high end car company or a high end luxury fashion brand or anything like that to that degree. You have to be careful about how you associate your brand with because once one bad thing goes wrong, then people associate that with your brand from now until, whenever you get a chance to recorrect yourself.
mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I've dabbled in products before. Didn't go as good as I wanted to. I
Yeah.
was trying to sell leather goods, and with leather goods, I wanted to be high end. My thought process was I want to make my product expensive, so one sale, even if it's harder to get, brings me more money.
Yeah.
And with that, there's this sort of whenever you're trying to sell a luxury product, the marketing has to feel exclusive
Yeah. Yep.
almost. So how are you guys creating that exclusivity and that luxury feel with Collins Ave?
So with us, I'm not gonna say now. For the longest, we weren't in liquor stores, and it was hard to get our product. You'd have to order from our website direct to consumer, or you had to go into certain like restaurants, lounges, or certain places around the country that only carried our brand. And I think that built up a sort of like I guess you would say like buzz, or it built up like a demand for it. And that's what I think I kind of did well at, and I kind of push that with our team. Like, hey, I don't want to just be in every restaurant. I don't want to just be at every club. I don't want to be at just any bar. Like, let's pick the right places to be at and force ultimately is two things that happens with that. One, we drive customers to that establishment's venue and get them customers they may not ever had, but they like our brand, so they're willing to go there to try our brand. Two,
Mhm,
we're moving product because our brand is in there, and now you have a new recurring customer because we only selected certain venues to do that, and so that draws up engagement for them and draws a crowd that typically they may not have gotten if our brand wasn't in it.
Yeah, yeah. With that being said, that partnership that you have, and how do you keep yourself creative? Because there's so many avenues that you can go, and sometimes it feels like you've exhausted every avenue. So how do you keep yourself creative and continuously find new avenues to increase sales or, increase overall revenue?
Traveling and partnerships. Partnerships are very, very big. I think everybody's in the space of like trying to battle against each other. I'm not saying that it's going to stay like that, but I feel like there's a slow transition of people understanding the value of collaboration. And you see a lot of brands, big brands at that, that collaborate with each other because they want to serve a demographic that they ultimately don't get to tap into a lot because that's not their brand identity. But they would like to have a piece, a fraction of that crowd or demographic into the everyday consumers. So once you understand that, you're like, okay, if I have champagne and they have uh, a caviar company. Well, champagne and caviar kind of go together hand to hand. Why don't we just cross promote and do something together? That way, you're getting the demographic you want, I'm getting the demographic I want, and we're cross pollinating our ultimately our clientele. And so that's that piece of it, which is very, very, very impactful. And then you get the travel side. You're going to different parts of the world, seeing how people drink and eat this and how they, they celebrate like this, or people when they get, you know, big, big celebrations or festivals, they use these type of companies. And so you start getting a perspective of like, okay, if I go to Spain or I go to Russia, or if I go to these countries, these are the type of events and type of things that they like, and this is what they involve champagne with, and that's you get that perspective. So it kind of helps me kind of think of new ideas.
Yeah, yeah, that's great. Do you guys run ads of any sorts, or is it simply
Yeah,
travel?
now we are. I think I did my first ad this year, but next year will be way way more ads. I just want to get a great production team and a consistent team. As photos, videos, or anything like that, or content for social media. I want to have a consistent people that I use and that can create an overall image. So that's something I've been working on that, and I'm almost there, fine tuning it. Once we get that, I think we'll have way, way more ads and stuff like that. But for right now, it's working organically. But I do know at some point.
How's the process been of, learning how to do ads and running your first ads? Because personally, when I first started running ads, I did not know what I was doing,
Yeah,
spent a lot of money, wasted a lot of money,
yeah,
and ultimately it ended with my business not really hitting the ground. So,
yeah.
how's that process been for you?
I think for me, it's I've been very, very um, just diligent in doing my research and making sure when I do purchase ads or when I do use ads, I'm using them um, for the right thing. Because I know a lot of people like, oh, I had a post do 500 likes. Let me put an ad behind it and get more. It's like, well, like, what is the action? What is the call to action? What is the purpose? Are you selling something? Are you trying to get people to go to a website and buy more product? You have to have a strategic plan when you push an ads and stuff. And so that's where your team comes in. It's like, hey, okay, we know we've done this, this, and this. We've moved product over here. Let's find a way to kind of mitigate some L's by pushing ads over here. That way we don't have to go spend a ton of marketing dollars to get into this uh demographic or get into this region of the country to explore the brand. So I think those are ways to
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, dude, ads ads
yeah,
were so difficult, but
yeah.
to be fair, I also run a photography company on the side.
Okay.
I'm not a photographer, but my friends are. So I was like, oh, I'll just get them to take some good pictures for me and make it look fancy and just throw some money on
Yeah.
Facebook. Didn't work.
Nah. You gotta
Yeah,
be strategic about it.
absolutely.
You gotta be
Absolutely.
strategic about it. Yeah.
You know, I was young. I was very much under the impression like, oh, the bags will sell themselves. I was trying to sell like a $400 briefcase.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
I honestly, what I tell people, because in my experience, I sell a high amount of champagne as far as like dollar amount. And so with people is like your champagne costs as much as Veuve or Moet or these other brands, but honestly, I think for me is the product is that good that I can sell it for that much because I feel like if I sell it for any less, then people think it's a bargain, and I don't want people to feel like they're getting a bargain.
Right.
I want people to feel like they're getting their money's worth. And
Yeah.
those are two totally different things. Like it's cool to get bargains with clothes or a car or a house or something like that. That's cool because those are thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars. But if I want to spend $60, $70 or something, I want it to be of quality because I can repurchase something for $60, $70. I can't repurchase a house every 2 weeks. You know what I'm saying? Or I can't
Right.
repurchase a car every month. Those are things that are one-time purchases. So you do want them to be of quality, but you still want to bargain for them. So you're willing to take a car with a missing headlight that you know that you can replace, or a house that the back porch is kind of messed up, but you know you can do some work to it and get some dollars, some thousands off on the house. That's understandable. But when you're talking about a product that you consume every day, you want that to be of quality and that you can have that reoccurring customer. So that's why I think my product sells.
Yeah, absolutely. And the quality is going to be bringing people back. If you don't have that quality, no one's going to come back. They're just
Yeah,
going to be like, I spent $60 on this.
yeah.
Yeah. So I want to ask you about culture within the company, team culture. How do you set a positive culture within your team and maintain that with new hires and so on and so forth?
I think I give them the floor and I give them leeway to, you know, make stuff happen or come up with ideas. And I use their ideas, whether it's on marketing campaigns, whether it's on social media, whether it's at events. I use their ideas and I let them have the floor. And I also, I try to not push my narrative so much. I know what I'm able to create because I created the company. I know what I'm able to do, but I want to see what you want to do because ultimately you may have an idea that I've never thought about. I'm like, yo, that's actually a good idea. Let's do that. And I think that's the narrative that I want to push. As far as like um, getting them to feel comfortable with coming up with new ideas and fresh things, and we collaborate on things. So I might input this, and then I add on top of it to make it even better. And I think that's where I think the culture comes from. And then we're all like hustlers. We're all trying to figure out the next best thing to make the company better, bigger and better. And when you have people like that that is passionate about you, about the brand just as much as you, I think your company's always going to be successful. Always.
Yeah. One thing that I've seen time and time again, specifically with younger founders who have found some success,
Mhm.
is that you get a little bit of money and you kind of let it to get to your head. You want to control everything, and the ego kind of gets in the way of the business growth. So, you know, when you finally first start seeing success, whether that be on the field, in your sports, whether that be in the business world, whether that be in your job, nine to
Yeah.
five, whatever the case may be, how do you stop yourself from elevating yourself too high and still ground yourself to be able to listen to others and really scale your business?
I think you have to get and I think you have to put people around you that know or better than you at certain things. And I think I do a very good job at that. That I hire people that are better than me in certain areas. Like I'm not good with like putting pitch decks together and doing this and doing that. Like all the admin stuff I'm terrible at. Now I can do it, like the very basis of it, but I don't put the cherry on top and make it look sweet like they do. And I think hiring people that are better than you at certain stuff or have a better knowledge or have more understanding of how this works and how this goes, I think that's what's always going to make, your company scalable. And also knowing when to input yourself and your dominance inside the company. Like you have to have moments where you're like, no, I'm the CEO, I'm the owner, I'm the founder. I think we need to do this because of X, Y, and Z. Because ultimately, it's still your vision at the end of the day, and you ultimately know where you want to see your company go. So you do have to make executive decisions when you think that this is the best move for us. And you have to sometimes you have to live with it. It may be right, it may be wrong, but you have to insert that dominance to a degree to show your team that like, hey, I'm confident in making this happen. I'm taking this risk.
Yeah. And many founders are very visionary,
Yeah,
but they really struggle with building out those systems, the communication part of things, team alignment.
yeah.
So, what sort of leadership shifts do you see in founders that you think they need to change before they can really scale?
What I noticed for us, I think a lot of founders try to take on a lot of the like making stuff happen as far as like pushing through like certain goals or tasks that they want to get done. And I think they delegate good enough. I think that's one thing that I've been learning as I've been going as a founder. I think delegation is like a big key to success. And not saying that they do all the work, but you can't do everything. You can't take every meeting. You can't take every phone call. Let them take the phone call because they may articulate the conversation in a way better than you. You're passionate and it's your business, so you're understanding it's like, why the hell don't you hire my company? Why don't you use my champagne for X, Y, and Z? Like, why not? What's the problem? But them, they understand that, hey, you're not a big brand right now, but you guys have done well in attendance and sales. You guys do have this, but you guys don't have this. And they understand those different dynamics. So they're able to articulate the conversation ultimately to get your point across of why this brand is best fitting for potentially the future or the in the current present time.
Gotcha.
Yeah,
Gotcha. Okay.
yeah,
Yeah. All right. So I want to shift the conversation a little bit. One of the common themes on this podcast is speaking about AI in the future.
yeah.
So, what sort of AIs are you guys using in your business right now that's helping you throughout the day to day?
Right now, we don't really use AI besides like maybe summarization for like quotes or like emails or something like that. I'll use it every once in a while to write a caption for maybe like a social media caption or my intern will. Or if we're trying to come up with a caption to explain an event or description, something like that, we'll use AI. But right now, I think AI for me, it's not something I really want to get into at the moment, just because I'm in the business of organic kind of business, organic conversations, because robots don't drink champagne as humans do. So I have to naturally connect that way for right now until we can get into a space to where AI makes sense in certain areas that benefit us. But right now, it doesn't really benefit our company just because we're in a handshake in a hug type of business.
Mm, yeah. Yeah. Do you think there's any AI tools that that are currently available or could possibly be available soon that are really going to shake up the world that you're in?
Yeah, so my guy Nate Roberson, he's a tech developer and he developed a software, a AI software, and a virtual software that you can put on a headset or you can look through your phone or digitally. That say if you live in Seattle and you want to view apartment in Texas because you want to move there, but you don't want to have to fly all the way to Texas just to look at the apartment, you can virtually take a walk through the apartment and see it in real time and
Wow.
basically like get a full view of the entire apartment, not just the unit but the entire building. So like the gym, the concierge service, the lounges, parking, street views, they have it digitally set up and kind of set out in a way that it's automatically kind of set up like that. And it's an AI component that kind of answers questions for you about school districts, about how far grocery stores are, what is the crime rate, all these. He set up that. So shout out to my boy Nate.
That's amazing. That's so
Yeah,
cool.
yeah,
Dude, I'm an AI guy.
yeah.
That's all my business is
It's
right
called
now.
Path, by the way.
Huh?
It's called Path, by the way.
Path, PATH.
Yep.
All
Yeah.
right, cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, we'll link that down on the show descriptions as
For
well. But
sure.
I'm an AI guy. That's my current business. I've had a lot of failed businesses in the past.
Yeah.
Right now, I'm doing AI, and man, the things that AI can do, it's insane.
Yeah, yeah. I've been seeing this. It's pretty.
Yeah, and the advances that we're making are really incredible. The the only like downside that I see is an over reliance on AI. I know there's a lot of people that are right now that they think that AI might replace them or replace humans. And I think right now, because of how new it is, everyone's racing to try to AI everything. Like
Yeah,
every role, we want to AI it, you know? I think eventually we'll find a point where we'll realize like the human experience is incredibly important and AI is going to be doing the things that we don't want to do. Things
yeah,
like writing captions and emails, admin, creating pitch decks, stuff like that
yeah,
is gonna be replaced by AI, and I think what this allows is that the founders, the creators, the innovators, they'll have more time
yeah,
to create, to provide value, and give more to the companies. I think that's where AI is gonna shine in the
yeah.
coming.
I agree. I think for me, AI. I'm not really. I'm being completely transparent. I'm not a fan of AI. Not because I'm worried about them taking my job or anything like that. I'm more in a sense like I don't want us to lose the humanity part of our existence or our culture. I think that we're already like in a social media era where people don't even speak on trains, buses, where they, you know what I'm saying? Because we're so heavily dived into our phone and everything is about like the next best thing or instant gratification. People like seeing stuff in real time and like that stuff is cool, but like we lose the like being human part of the interaction of conversation and networking and socializing and all these different things that go into running a business. Honestly, you don't get, your PR firms and all these great magazines and stuff. People don't go out and do journalism. People don't go out and take pictures. And people don't go out to network and to socialize and go to parties and meet new people. None of these things happen if we don't go out and be humans. And that's the part I worry about the most.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I spoke with Dr. Kari Salinas in a previous episode, and she spoke about something that I think is very important, and that's continuously making the choice
Yeah.
to choose humans over
Yep.
AIs, to
Yep.
choose robots, to continue choosing to create
Yep.
and like keep ourselves sharps. And
Yep.
I think adults like me and you, we can do that.
Yep.
Where I fear is the kids.
Yeah.
Kids over reliance on AI because, I grew up in a time where when I was young, social media wasn't around, but I was still young enough when the
Same.
event of social media came around.
Same.
And I remember the times before it, I remember the times during it,
Agreed.
and now. And
Agreed.
I've been able to keep myself to a point where it's like, okay, I can weather the storm.
Yeah.
But these 10-year-olds who, you know, they got ChatGPT 3 years ago,
Yep.
no one knows how to write now, you know?
Yep.
No one's doing their homework. No one knows how to do math.
Yep.
And that's where it's becoming
Yeah.
scary.
And I agree with you on that because now, these are your future politicians and doctors and lawyers and people that, ultimately create medicines and, you know, and everything. If everything is kind of artificially done for you, you don't have that real hands-on experience. That's why, us growing up, we used to have, I don't know if you still know, but like they had this thing called grown man strength
Mhm.
and it was man strength came over time of you constantly doing stuff and
Yep.
being able to, just kind of like really like just like, kind of rig it a little bit until you figure it out like this, okay, my strength is here as a grown man, like I have grown man strength to do certain things.
Mhm.
I fear some of these kids won't ever get grown man strength because they never had to like pop a they they never popped the chain on a bike and had to like set the bike up and put some oil on and turn the pedals to get the chain back on. Like, we had
Mhm.
to learn to do these things. We had to learn to be mechanical. We had to learn to like problem solve. And I think a lot of like you were saying that these kids
Absolutely.
won't be able to problem solve if everything is already kind of just a press of a button and it's there.
Yeah. I think that is very, very true. Like for example, when I started driving when I was 15 years old,
Same.
and I popped a tire. I
Yep.
didn't have a phone.
Yeah. Yeah. Figure
And
it
I
out.
mean, most people my age did have a phone. I was just late, but I couldn't just like Google how do I change a tire. I had to
Yeah.
figure it out,
Yeah.
or I had to call my dad,
Yeah.
there was so many different avenues, but like I had to use my brain.
Yeah.
That's the thing where it is scary, and I think
Yeah.
the benefits of it, there's a ton of benefits. There's gonna be a ton of advancements in science, medicine, all these things.
Great.
Also going to be a generation that has this over-reliance, and that's very scary.
Yep, yep. And I think that's where us as like this generation, and the generation before us, I think we need to be sticklers on like teaching our kids, whenever I do have them, teaching them like fundamental things like changing a tire or like, going outside and learning how to do certain things and just being an everyday human that we had to. I'm not saying go out there and cut 3 acres of grass with a push mower. Like I'm not gonna tell you to do that. But getting outside and getting on the lawnmower and actually cutting the grass and knowing what it feels like to have green shoes and those are your cutting grass shoes and you have the indoor shoes and you have the outdoor shoes and just understanding the different dynamics of how society should or can work, keep evolving and those simple necessities.
Yeah. Yeah, it is really important, and our generation, it really is up to us. One thing, I don't know if you've seen this, but Australia actually just made social media for anyone under 16
Yeah,
illegal. And I think that they're going to be the catalyst. I think a
yeah,
lot of countries, I think the European Union is looking into it.
yeah,
America will probably, a lot of countries are going to
yeah.
start instilling this.
I think it's great. I think social media ultimately has ruined our sense of like accomplishments. We think things are not or significant or as great of accomplishment because we didn't get $1 million behind it, or the news didn't report us, or we didn't do like simply by someone not taking a day off at the gym and eating clean for 30, 40 days. That's a sense of accomplishment. People get on social media. If you didn't lose 40 pounds in a month, then you're not really working hard and you're not grinding hard enough. It's like, yo, that took that dude 2 years to get to that point. Like,
Yeah.
show him some grace, show him some love.
Yeah.
And so I think social media kind of ruins that for a lot of people because we
Yeah.
only show our wins. We only show, I think we need to show losing a little bit, and not a sense of like you losing a family member or something that tragic, but I think you need to show that, like, hey, this is a process for me. I am going to figure out and I am going to get through it. And I think the more
Yeah.
people show that, like, human part side of you, I think social media will kind of shift a little bit.
Yeah, that authenticity part of it. I feel like there sort of is becoming a shift
It
of that.
is. It is. It is. I see it. I'm starting to
Yeah.
see it. I am.
Yeah, because I've started to see more and more people really dislike this influencer culture of these like
Yeah.
rich kids, like,
Yeah.
yeah. And it's very, the social media is like kind of warped our perception of like what is realistic.
Yeah.
You see like the like think about like our dads, like our dads, our grandparents,
Yeah.
like in their entire lives, they probably saw maybe 5, 10 out of 10 women, right?
Yeah.
You go on social media, you see that every day,
Yeah. It
right?
gets it's tricky, man.
Right, and,
It's
like, the human
tricky.
body, the human mind isn't meant to see that. We're not
Yeah,
supposed to
I
see
agree.
that
I
sort of
agree.
success and that sort of
I
fame
tell
and
people that all the time. I'm like, yo, we're not supposed to consume this much amount of like information from a personal connection standpoint. Like, you're not supposed to. Now, granted, it works when you have a business because you're connected to all these different people. Cool, but like when you're just a normal everyday citizen, you just like scrolling on TikTok, and you have a girlfriend that's completely capable of loving you the way you need to be loved and doing all the things and looks great, and then you get on social media and see this girl from Australia that looks like amazing, and then now you're comparing your girl that you've been on for 10 years to a girl you only been seeing for 30 seconds, and you thinking like that's the reality. It's like,
Mm,
no, it's not real. Like, we're not supposed to see that many people. Like, back in the day, was when your parents, when they came home from work, they saw their husband, they saw their kids, and occasionally a friend would come over for dinner or something like that. They will go back to work and they'll see the people at work, and that would be it. And that would be their kind of like their circle of people besides their friends that they grew up with.
yeah,
That would be it. But now, all you gotta do is get on Instagram and DM a girl, and if y'all like each other enough, y'all can see each other by Friday, and it's Monday. So it's kind of scary, but
yeah, exactly. Anyways, this conversation's been really good, man. I really appreciate your perspective as a
yeah,
founder. You've obviously done this multiple times. You've had the experiences being a professional athlete.
yep.
Now you're, uh, an entrepreneur. I've had a good time with you speaking to you today,
Appreciate it, brother.
this conversation. For anyone who may be listening today, where can we find you?
You can go follow my personal page at Curtis Collins _Curtis Collins CURTISINS. And then you can follow Collins Ave business page at Collins COLLINS AVE _ Collins Ave. That's on all across all platforms.
Awesome.
Yes,
Awesome.
sir.
Well, like I said, thank you again, Curtis. I've had a great time. And for anyone listening, thank you for tuning into the Choten Podcast. If you have any topics or things that you'd like us to cover, or if you know anybody that you would like to be on the podcast, drop them down in the comments below. And don't forget to subscribe. Thanks again, Colin.
Thank you, brother. I appreciate it.